Well, hi, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast. And Colleen and I are super excited today because our guest is William Lee Rand. So, William, you want to say hi real quick?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, happy to be here. I'm out here in my home on Maui, and you can see the inside here, and then down in the corner, that's a view out the front. So I got a camera set up on the balcony, looking out the front of the house, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And so, for those of you that are listening, you can always go to our YouTube channel where we also post these podcasts. And you can take a look at the video too that William is talking about. And it's really funny too, because for those of you that are watching, just before we started, he adjusted his camera to include that beautiful amethyst that is behind him. I mean, it's totally like Colleen and I were like, the amethyst is totally waving at us. So we were really, really glad that you included it.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, just a few quick announcements before we get started and I read William's bio is just as far as any Reiki lifestyle things, of course, we always have upcoming classes, ICRT animal Reiki classes. Colleen teaches Holy Fire 3 Karuna, World Peace Reiki classes. Sorry if I got the wrong order on that. And so you can find that all at our website, reikilifestyle.com. And then, as I said before, we have a YouTube channel and then also our free Tuesday morning distance Reiki shares. You're always welcome to join us. And so for all of that, just go to our website and you can find more information. But we really wanted to get into today's guest because it's very exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and just read your bio, William, because that's a great way to get started. So William Lee Rand is the founder and president of the International Center for Reiki Training, the ICRT, the Center for Reiki Research, and the Reiki Membership Association. He's also the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reiki News magazine, has authored Reiki, the Healing Touch, the Reiki Touch Kit, and Reiki for a New Millennium, and the Spirit of Reiki, and over 100 articles on the history, philosophy, and practice of Reiki. William has done extensive research on the origin and nature of Reiki and produced a pioneering work titled An Evidence-Based History of Reiki. William is the originator of the Usui Tibetan system of Reiki, which he developed in 1989. In 1995, with the help of some of his students, he developed the Karuna Reiki system of healing. And in January 2014, he introduced the Holy Fire system of Reiki, which was upgraded to Holy Fire 2 in November of 2015, and then upgraded to Holy Fire 3 in September of 2018. Between 1997 and 2004, he placed world peace crystal grids at the North and South Pole and in Jerusalem. And this system allows Reiki students all over the world to join together each month in sending Reiki to the peace grids to promote world peace. Over 428,000 sets of the World Peace Grid cards have been downloaded for use in this meditation. William received Reiki 1 in 1981, Reiki 2 in 1982, and became a Reiki master in 1989. He's received the Reiki master level training from 6 Reiki masters, including 3 from Japan, and also received Reiki 1 and 2 from Bethel. I don't want to miss Peg. Thank you. Peg Sensei, one of Takata Sensei's masters from Chioko Yamaguchi Sensei, who is a Reiki master of Shimpuden, who took classes from Hayashi Sensei. In addition, William also has a strong background in metaphysics and previously been a professional astrologer, hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, rebirther, and is certified in Neuro Linguistic Programming. I also want to add that there are more world peace grids in the world, including one right behind you in your home in the Reiki Center in Hawaii, one in the Reiki Center in Michigan, and then one was just recently placed on Karama in Japan. Yes. Okay. William has dedicated his life to Reiki and practiced and taught full-time classes around the world since 1989. He encourages all Reiki practitioners to work together in harmony to bring peace to the earth. And his website is reiki.org, Instagram, Facebook, ICRT Official, and YouTube channel, ICRT Official. All right. Quite the bio, I will say.
No, thank you.
And thank you so much for
Mhm.
everything and all your work, of course. All that you've contributed to Reiki and to all of our lives as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. Mhm.
All right. Well, Colleen, did you get a chance to say hi?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's all right. Well, hi, everyone. And of course, I'm excited to have William here too. And thank you, William, for
Hmm.
joining us today. And also for us, William is also a family friend, and he has other roles where he is a mentor and has been my mentor. And we work together very regularly. So we have a very good and powerful friendship as well.
Mhm.
And I learned so much. And, today we know we wanted to talk about the evolution of Reiki and how it has led to the world peace Reiki that we're working with today. But I think I just want to share a little bit with you, William. When I met you in 2003, and that was when you were really introducing the evidence-based history of Reiki. That was a powerful change for me with Reiki because I had been trained in a very strict style, and some of the techniques I had been taught, some of it just didn't quite make sense to me. And so when I took classes with you and you taught about Usui Sensei and his practices and, Biozen scanning and the intuition and spirituality of his practice, and then the evolution of it and the evidence base, it was like it just opened Reiki for me, because suddenly there was the ability to really be able to connect with Reiki itself on a whole other level. So anyway, that's just a personal story. And of course, that was what led me to want to become part of the ICRT and the program that you created for licensed teachers. So anyway, again, thank you, because
Oh,
it's
you're
a
welcome.
long time ago. Yeah, long time ago, back in Stonehenge in England. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, why don't you share some of your story, but also how that, like your Reiki story just weaves so much into the evolution of Reiki, because you've brought about so much of the evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, one of the things that happened for me is I did have a very strong interest in metaphysics. And I had seen the little ads for the Rosicrucians. I don't know if you guys listening or watching have seen know anything about the Rosicrucians, but they're a very old organization, been around for a long, long time. In fact, probably thousands of years. And for the most part, long ago, they were in the background because the Catholic Church dominated anything spiritual and persecuted and condemned and even killed people that were doing anything different than Catholicism. So because of that, the Rosicrucian order was in the background and hidden, out of sight, but spoken of in secret among different people. And basically the Rosicrucians were for personal empowerment, which was something that the church didn't like. And they wanted everyone to look to the church for direction and guidance, whereas Rosicrucians were saying, well, we have that guidance within us. And so it was condemned by the church. So they were a secret society, but some very well-known people in the past were Rosicrucians. And then in its latest incarnation, you might say, or incineration, they're based in San Jose, California. And they send out lessons. And so you can get a lesson once a week. And so I studiously studied their lessons, and it was just amazing. and learned so much from them, and joined their lodge. They had a local chapter where you could actually meet other Rosicrucians and talk and things like that. And so was doing that. I dabbled a little bit in astrology, had my chart done at that time. And then because I was living in Detroit, Detroit's right across the river from Canada. And so people from Canada would come to the Rosicrucian meetings. And then someone mentioned something about something called concept therapy. And I hadn't heard of that, but I also was involved with hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and I became a hypnotherapist. And so since it was right across the river, they were going to have, an introduction. So I went over there and I learned about it, and I found out that they were into hypnosis. And their idea was that if you put positive concepts in the subconscious mind, your own, or if you're working with other people, positive concepts in the subconscious, they're like seeds, and they grow and develop and, help change or transform a person's life to become much more positive. So, that was very powerful. And so I took those classes too. And I noticed, though, that there was a tendency that once a person belongs to a particular group, there's like, my group is the best group. And that was what the Rosicrucians kind of said, and I started to feel like that too, but I realized that wasn't a good idea, that other people might have ideas or knowledge that the Rosicrucians don't have. And some of it may be the same, but there could be additional points. So I decided I was going to study with other groups. So I started going to the concept therapy meetings and took training with them. And like I say, also had my astrology chart read. And I had my own business. I was selling racing parts for motorcycles. I also raced motorcycles. And at that time called scrambles, and then that started calling it motocross. But I went to a party, and the guy there had been to Hawaii, and he was like raving about Hawaii. And I like, wow, he's just going on and on and on about how fantastic it is, the oceans and the mountains and the people and the surfing and swimming and everything about it. And so what happened is I took on a couple of partners, and then it didn't work out. And then the business kind of was deteriorating. And so I decided I was going to start traveling. So I traveled around the US, but ended up going to Hawaii. And I learned in my business, though, we started to make sidecars for motorcycles, and I learned how to do fiberglass work. And so when I got to Hawaii, I got a job in a fiberglass boat factory, and they actually made me the foreman of this whole little boat factory thing. And at the same time, though, I wanted to learn more about metaphysics. And so I heard about this astrologer. I had my chart read by her, and then she knew this other group that happened to be a group of Wicca people. And I started going to their groups, and then I met a guy there that was an astrologer. And just by talking with him, I picked up on astrology right away. I didn't really take any lessons, but I learned about it. And I guess I did read some books and things like that, but I was able to start doing charts, and I just had a knack for it. It was really good. And then I developed my own chart called the transograph. I'll show you what that looks like. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had your chart read, but this is what the transograph looks like. And it's a much more complicated astrology chart. So the thing about astrology is that it's not just where your sun was at your time of birth, like a person is a Scorpio or a Gemini or a Libra or a Taurus or something, but that your whole chart is all the planets. And so I developed this chart, and I had them printed. I had a big poster size one on the wall. And my roommate was doing a tarot card reading for someone, and she looked at that chart and said, I know somebody would be interested in the chart. So I gave her a copy. I had a big poster size copy of it. I gave it, rolled up to her. And so then a few days later, I was sitting in my apartment, and semi-consciously, there was a force on this side of my body. And I wasn't really aware of it too much, but then it moved to the front, and suddenly went, wait a minute, something's happening. So then I became very calm and focused, and made my mind very still, became an observer, and I felt it move over here. And I mean, I thought that's definitely happening. I have no idea what it was. And then the woman I gave the chart to said, oh, by the way, I gave this chart to a friend of mine. He's very curious about meeting you. And by the way, he's a kahuna. And you may have heard of the kahunas are the shamans of the Hawaiian culture. So they, back in the ancient times, they were the shaman priests, and they did healing, and they were very telepathic, and they were very developed metaphysically. And then I started to realize, about that. And so this guy wanted to meet me, and he's a kahuna. So I went and met him, and he already knew all about me. So I started to realize maybe that was him, his energy coming in, like his aura was so strong. I could feel his presence, and he was looking at me, but he didn't really have any questions for me. Like he already knew everything he wanted to know about me. And, but he was unusual in that he taught classes, and he had a set of offices, and he asked me if I would like to do astrology for him personally. And also, if I wanted, he would set me up with his clients to do charts for them. And just casually, wanting to know, would I be interested in that? And inside I'm going, yes, yeah, oh yeah. Without where I go, yeah, I think I'd like to try that out. So, I mean, you hear about kahunas, and I'm going to work with one. I mean, it's amazing. So then I got to take his classes, and I do astrology for him. And then all the different situations he was in with other kahunas and the energies and everything. I learned all about it. And that was pretty phenomenal. It was just like a fantastic experience. And so I worked with him for a whole year, and I went to work every day at his set of offices, and then I read charts for people, and I got to take his classes and all that. And I got to ask him questions that normally he wouldn't answer to the general public. So there's actually a lot going on behind the scenes with kahunas and shamans and stuff that they don't really talk about too much. But I learned that stuff too. So that was great. And I worked with him for about a year. And then I got involved with astrology. I was doing professional astrology sessions. And then also I went to the mainland, back to mainland US. And then there was a guy named Dick Sudfin. He was teaching classes on how to do past life regression therapy. So I took his training, and I already knew how to do hypnosis. So it was very easy to do the past life regression. I got it. So I began doing past life regression, astrology. And then I learned about rebirthing, and rebirthing is a breathing process that goes back to your first breath, which you take right after being born. So it's called rebirthing. And so a guy named Leonard Orr invented it or created it. And so it was on the Big Island. I went over there, and I took its rebirthing training for a week and learned how to be a rebirther. But in the group, there were a lot of other people that practiced other modalities, and he asked them to talk to the group. And so one woman stood up and started talking about Reiki. And I heard a little bit about it. The kahuna talked about, but he didn't seem to be too big on it. But the person's name was Bethel Fay, and she had learned from Takata. And so she talked about Reiki. There were two things she said. First of all, she said that Reiki is a healing energy that's not your own. Now, with the kahuna, with the Rosicrucians, you build up your own energy, and then you direct it to help other people. But when you do that, your energy supply goes down. So Bethel was saying this Reiki doesn't do that, that it actually, you're channeling a new stream of energy that's not your energy. It's coming from an unlimited source. And so you don't lose energy when you do Reiki healing. And so that was very interesting to me. And then she also said that in other types of healing, the practitioner guides the energy themselves with their own mind. And she said, well, with Reiki, it guides itself. It has its own intelligence. Now, she said those two things, but the Rosicrucians said something also. They said, don't believe something just because someone says it's true or is written in a book or something. Learn from experience. So, because people can say anything, and I thought those are good ideas, but I don't know if they're true or not. But I'm thinking, how can I learn from experience? How can I do that? Well, how would that work? And so the next day we had a meeting again, and she talks again. She says she talked to Leonard that there would be enough time in the rebirthing training for her to teach a Reiki class. He says, how many would like to do that? I go, that is exactly what I want to do, is learn it and learn from experience. Does this stuff work? So I did that and took the training and got the attunement. And when I got that in energy, I could feel, and of course, I made my mind very still, became an observer. I felt the energy come down through my crown chakra, went down to my root, came up and exploded through my heart, and it was blowing out these little chunks of glowing material, like it had broken up some block or something. And I could feel my hands getting warmer. And when we practiced, I felt like the energy pulsing through me, which I had not felt with the healing I did with the Rosicrucians or the Kahuna. And it was pulsing. And then when I received Reiki also, wow, it was really powerful. And so then I was on the Big Island, and I went for a walk after that by myself. And because I got into level 1 in that training. And so I went for a walk by myself, and the light was coming down through the vegetation. And then the energy spoke to me, and it said, this energy can be developed. I mean, very crystal clear in my mind. I go, whoa, because that was really important, because what they were teaching was, you can't develop Reiki. You've got level 1, and that's what you've got. If you want to get stronger, go to level 2, and then you have level 2, and then master eventually, but then that's a lot more money. So I thought, whoa, but the energy just told me it can be developed. So I believe the energy. So, and then working with a kahuna, what he said, he had studied with 9 other kahunas. And he said the way of huna, kahuna means the secret, and ka means keeper of the secret. So what the kahunas did were secret among themselves, and they could do all these powerful things, but they didn't let anyone else know how to do them. But what he had studied with 9 other kahunas, and he said the way of huna is always to be a student. You're always a student. You're always learning, and there's never a time when you say you're done. You're never done. And I thought, wow, that's really something. So I thought, I'm going to do the same thing with Reiki, because what they said in Reiki at that time is, once you become a master, you stay with that master the rest of your life. I said, oh, how wonderful that would be. But being sarcastic somewhat, because all I would know is what that one master knows, and all these other masters probably have, even if they have just a little bit more, I would learn that. So I studied with, 6 or 7 altogether. I would take it, including 1 and 2, maybe 7, 8, 9 different Reiki masters, got the master level from 5, 6 of them. And every one of them had little pieces and bits of additional information and perspectives and ways that they practiced. And so that all added up. So I got a lot of information that I would not have gotten if I had followed what they had said I should be doing. And so it's very interesting, though, that the training that the history of Reiki that was taught at that time was coming from Mrs. Takata. She changed the history. And so she said that Usui had been a Christian minister, and he had been the president of Doshisha University, which is a Christian university in Japan, and that he was seeking to understand and learn how Jesus had healed. Now, all those are wonderful ideas, but when I became a Reiki master, I started researching the whole thing, and I came across some problems with that story, because she also said that he had come to the United States and got a degree from the University of Chicago. So I thought, well, gee, Detroit's right by Chicago. I'm going to find out about that. So I wrote them a letter trying to find out, I said to them, there was a student, Makao Usui, and he got his doctorate from your university. And do you have a record of this? And then they wrote back, and they said they had gone to great lengths to research this, and they looked through all their records, and even to the school before it became the University of Chicago, and they could find no one by the name of Usui that had ever gotten even a single credit. And they said they know absolutely they have to have accurate records of every single person that got even one credit, because they're an accredited university. And they said no one by that name ever studied there. Now, I thought I was going to have like the mother lode of information about Usui. Like suddenly I'm going to have all these facts and, you know, what he studied and maybe even his grades and all that stuff. No, nothing. But they said, but he was the president of Doshisha University in Kyoto, Japan. So then I write to Doshisha University, and same process. But they said a little more. They said, well, we had to have this interpreted, translated into Japanese, and then our writing back into English. So it has taken a little bit longer. And they said they have consulted their chief archivist, who has gone all the way back as far as he could in the records. And they said, we know certainly there was never anyone by the name of Usui who was the president of Doshisha University. And I thought, wow, that was like devastating. I thought, was this all just made up? Did you kind of make this up? And so I considered even stopping, you know, not even studying Reiki anymore and or practicing. But then I realized, but the energy works. It works. And I thought, well, I'm going to continue to research and see what I can find out. So I kept at it. And over time, through the help of a number of different people, we've accumulated a lot of facts about the history. So now I was able to write the book, The Evidence-Based History of Reiki. So yeah, Evidence-Based History of Reiki. So this is based on evidence-based facts. And so got the real story. And so what we find then from the facts around Usui and around Reiki is that Usui was very curious and apparently probably quite intelligent. And he was born in a village called Taniai in Japan. And as he got older, he started studying different things. He studied religion and philosophy, and he had lots of different jobs. He was very curious, so he got different kinds of jobs to learn how to do those jobs. And they say he even went to China and also Europe. And also that said the US, although I'm not sure about that, if he actually did, but and studied all these different things. And then he started to realize everything has a purpose. And then he wondered, well, what about life? Does life have a purpose? And how would you discover that, like the light, your purpose? And so he started asking around. He was told, well, Zen meditation, Zazen meditation teaches that, your purpose. And so he met a Zazen master, a Zen master, and he practiced Zazen meditation diligently for 3 years. Nothing happened. So he went to his master and said, well, I've done this diligently, exactly according to the way I'm supposed to be doing this. So then he goes to the sacred mountain, which was Mount Karama, and he goes up to the top, and he is very, very determined. And he is so determined that he's going to fast and meditate. And he decided that he would either die from fasting or he would receive this awareness. Now, the type of awareness he was looking for is a type of enlightenment. And, you know, I always thought enlightenment is enlightenment and everyone's got the same kind. Well, I guess there's different kinds. And this was called Ansen Ditsume. And this type of enlightenment is where you do become enlightened and you also discover your purpose and you are empowered to fulfill it. So that's what he was going for. So he meditated there every day, and intuitively he must have known something because he set out 21 stones in front of him to keep track of the time. And every day he tossed a stone away, you know, fasting, meditating. He did drink the spring water up on the mountain, but no food. And he got weaker and weaker and weaker. And finally he got to the last stone. He tosses it. He stands up. It's midnight. Nothing happened. And he just stands there. But suddenly, at that moment, this huge light comes down through the top of his head, goes into his body, and it's so powerful, and he's so weak from fasting, he falls down unconscious on the ground. And in the morning, he wakes up. Now, he was very weak prior to that, but now when he wakes up, he's filled with a tremendous energy, strength, and power. And he stands up and says, I am in the universe, and the universe is in me. And so he is very excited about this. He wants to tell his Zen master about it. So he goes running down the mountain. And if you've ever been there, the paths tend to collect water where the water runs down and all these roots get exposed. So he goes running down the mountain. He trips on a root and his toenail breaks back. Now, just the thought of that is it's like no one wants to even hear that. So anyway, his toenail breaks back. And now, again, he wasn't seeking to be a healer. He was looking for his purpose. But his toenail breaks back, and like anyone would do, I mean, it hurts, and he just puts his hands over his toe. At that moment, this tremendous energy flows through him, through his arms, and heals the toenail, and it goes back and it's healed. And with that energy, he gets this understanding. I am a healer, and this is my purpose. So then he walks down more slowly. And he goes into Tokyo, gets back to Tokyo. And there he starts healing. And he's healing people. And, it's quite powerful. And he's working with different groups of people that are sick and not feeling very healthy. And working with them. And he also started to train people. But his training method was a little slow. Now, I'm going to mention something too that a lot of people don't even know. In a couple minutes, I'll tell you what it is about Reiki and about Usui. But anyway, he had his big enlightening experience on the mountain, and he got the Reiki energy. But then he didn't have the ability to do an attunement. And so to train people, he would have the students hold their hands like this, and he would put his hands on top of their hands. He would give Reiki to their hands. But it was very, very slow. And so, but that's all he knew how to do. And then what happened, he had his experience on the mountain. He went there in March of 1922. He was there 3 weeks. So it might have been into April when he walked down the mountain, possibly. And so then by September of 1923, then there was something called the Great Kanto earthquake. So it was a very powerful earthquake, and people's homes fell down, people were injured, died, relatives were mourning for their dead relatives, and people were sick and just a really big mess. And so what he did at first is he healed as many people as he could. So he had 1 foot on a person, he was healing with his feet, 1 hand on each person, and with his eyes and breath, he was healing 6 people at the same time. Wow. And but that wasn't enough. And he was very had a lot of compassion for all the injured people. And so then he did another thing. He said a prayer, asking for a faster way to train people, because what he had took months for people to have even a little bit of healing. So then after that prayer, another experience took place like he had on the mountain, a second enlightening experience in which he was given the power to do reiju, as they call it in Japan, reiju, which is the attunement. So he was given the attunement energy. And so what he would do is he would touch people with that intention, and it would transfer the power. And then they suddenly would have the Reiki power. And he would touch the shoulders or the hips or the hands or the feet, and it would transfer it. And so that was a second experience. That's the part I was saying that not many people know about. He had a second enlightening experience when this energy came in for the attunement. And then when it came time to train others, then what he did though, he had no ritual. He would just touch the person and they got like zapped. But when it came time to train others, he developed a ritual. And that was the ritual that many people are familiar with. If you have the older style, the hands-on attunement, That's where that method of attunement came from. And so he developed the hands-on attunement at that time. Now, but he probably knew he was going to be passing on. So he found also another really interesting thing is when he had a level 1 called Shoden, level 2 was Okuden, then he had Shimpiden. Now, Shimpiden would be the master. Now, the thing that happened with his students when he gave them Shimpiden, they became enlightened. So he passed on enlightenment. The master level was the level of enlightenment. It was the same that he got on the mountain. He passed it on. And so these teachers became enlightened. And then when they taught their students, they were able to pass on the enlightenment also to their students. And so it was a very, very astounding practice. And then also what was started was the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai, which is he was the founder of this organization, and it was all the teachers that he had worked on. They were part of this organization to perpetuate the practice of Reiki. And then he also asked, there was a Hayashi, Shijiro Hayashi. They call him Dr. Hayashi. He may have had some type of medical training, but the research that we've been able to do indicates that he may not have been a full medical doctor, but had some sort of medical training. He asked Hayashi to develop it further. And that's an indication that Reiki is supposed to develop. He asked Hayashi to develop it further. Now, another thing that happened too is we came across, there was a Reiki master in Japan. His name is Hiroshi Doi Sensei. And I first met him in Toronto, Canada in 2002, and he taught a workshop there. And I got the Leiju, as they call it, from him, the attunement for master. And then and also there was another master there, Yakutin Inamoto. So there was Yakutin Inamoto and Doi Sensei. And then I invited them to go out to lunch with me. So they went, they accepted. Now, Yakutin could speak some English fairly well, and Japanese, of course, but Doi only Japanese. So then I started asking him questions, and because I thought, what an opportunity. So then I would ask Yakutin, Yakutin would ask Doi, they would have a discussion in Japanese, and then I would get the answer back. And I'm going along, and asking these different questions. And then I come to the question of all questions, at least as far as we're concerned, because the distance symbol, you guys know what it is. I'm not going to say the words because it's, sacred, but what it da, 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 da. So anyway, we all know how to pronounce that if you got level 2 or higher. And so I asked, what do those words mean? So then they have this really in-depth back and forth, and he comes back with somewhat of a broken English, like the place of all is one. And then he said, oh, no. Then they talk more Japanese, and then he comes out with these different versions, and I'm kind of getting the gist of what he's saying. And then so then I say to him, do you mean the origin of all is pure consciousness? He goes, yes, that's it. Then they talk some more, and they say, yes, that's it. They agree. And they say also, though, but pure, not ordinary consciousness, pure consciousness. But consider what that means. The origin of all is pure consciousness. Think about it. Look around yourself right now. Everything you see came from pure consciousness. And then the scientists also, the astrophysicists, they have this whole thing about where the universe come from. They said the Big Bang. And there's also a question like what was around before that? And they don't have any good answers. So consciousness. So in other words, consciousness doesn't have any form. And so everything came out of pure consciousness, the formless realm. There's the formless realm, and everything came out of all world of form came out of the formless realm. So, that was very profound. So Then another thing is that Hiroshi Doi Sensei, the Japanese master, he's still alive, and he's written some books. In fact, I published his book for him. And there.
There it goes.
Oh, there you go.
A modern Reiki method for healing.
Yeah, Hiroshi Doi. Yeah, I published this. Now, to do that, I had to have a lot of contact with Doi Sensei through his translator, Fumio Gawa. So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and until finally he's very happy with it. And then I published it, and then I went back to Japan. And so I became a very, he really liked me actually, because I published his book in English. So Doi Sensei started a fund. And so I donated to it. A lot of people donated money to it and got this fund going. And so then he got a small, very small piece of land there. I imagine it's, but like no more than about 30 feet by 20 in the village of Tanyai. And then he had these special monument stones created, all written in Japanese to explain the story of Usui and everything. And then an old stone with some old Japanese, characters on it. And so this happened when I was teaching in Japan. I was teaching 2 classes, and they were going to have a ceremony to commemorate this monument in Tanyai. And it just happened to be on my day off. How lucky is that? I don't know if Doi set it up like that, or he never said a word to me about it, but it was on my day off. So I was able to go over there and take part in the ceremony. So that because of that, then we got a lot of facts and information about Reiki and how Usui actually practiced. Like I say, Doi answered every question. Now, the thing about Hiroshi Doi Sensei, he also is a Reiki researcher. And so he had his own curiosity. And so because he's Japanese, he speaks and writes Japanese, reads Japanese, he was able to do a lot of research. And so he uncovered the notes of one of Usui's students that the grandfather had kept. And so he got these notes. And in the notes, it says, one of the things that Usui said to his students is that the most important thing for a Reiki practitioner to do is to continually seek to improve the quality and quantity of Reiki energy that you're able to channel. Now, that is a really important idea, because rather than, what a lot of people were saying, this is Reiki, you can't improve it, this is it. But the energy told me it could be improved. So then it comes back, Usui said that, so that it should be improved. And so that's what I was doing. I was doing exactly what Usui wanted Reiki practitioners to do. So now another thing that happened to me too is I was in my home back in Michigan. I was meditating, and I thought, well, how did Usui practice Reiki? How did he do it? And then I got scanning. He did scanning with his hand. So then no one was doing scanning. So I started doing scanning. And then our Java Petter in Germany married a Japanese woman, Chetna Kobayashi. And then because of that, she knew some of the Gakkai members. And so our Java was able to go around Japan and meet some of these older guys that practiced Reiki and learned a lot about Reiki. And one of the things he learned was that Usui did scanning, called Biosin scanning. And so I picked that up and I was doing it. And in his book, he says, and William Rand was already doing it. So, that's a nice validation. So our Java Petter did a lot of research and uncovered a lot of facts and information. I invited our Java to come over. I think it was in 2000 with Chetna, his wife, and together we went around to different big cities in the US and taught that what we call the Japanese Reiki techniques. And so that was when all these new ideas came into awareness. Even though Takada apparently knew about them, she didn't teach them too openly. But after Java and Chetna Kobayashi with their books and their teachings, then we learned much more about the Japanese Reiki techniques. So, that's a very important idea that Reiki is meant to be developed. We're meant to develop it. And, that's part of the tradition.
You were also talking about Hayashi Sensei and, going back to the evolution of it and the way that he practiced, and then how it evolved through him, and then Mrs. Takata, and then also back to your story.
Yeah, that's right. So there is an additional part there. So yeah, so Usui asked Hayashi to develop Reiki further. And so what Hayashi did was he was able to make the attunement, or leiju as they pronounce it in Japan, more powerful. And he also had more information about the symbols, and he began traveling around Japan teaching Reiki. And then what happened was Takata was over here in where I'm now in Hawaii. And so her sister died, and the funeral was to be in Japan. So to go back there, she had to sell her house because she had very little money. She sold her house for the money to go back. And so the funeral was in Japan. And then she also had some illnesses. She had appendicitis. There's a couple of other things, as problems. So she went to the doctor. And at that time, the medical care was free in Japan. So they were going to have an operation for her. And she was waiting for operation, and a voice spoke to her, and it said, "You do not need this operation." Now, she wasn't psychic. This was very unusual. She's looking around the room. Who said that? Who said it? And then it spoke again, very clearly. So she asked the doctor, "Can I be healed without an operation?" And then the doctor knew Dr. Hayashi, and he said, "Yes, there is a doctor here that can heal you without an operation." But she wasn't told anything else. It was just somehow he can do this without an operation. So, okay. So she goes over to Hayashi's clinic, and there's a treatment table, and there are two practitioners. She's laying on the table, and they're touching her with their hands, and she can feel the hands vibrating and a lot of heat. And it's so strong, she begins to look around the room like, where is the equipment? It felt to her like they were using some type of medical equipment. And their hands were covered by their big kimono sleeves, so she couldn't really see. And so she was starting to feel better, but then she said, "Well, where is the equipment? Where is it?" And she grabs their kimono sleeves and goes, "Where is it? Where is it? Where's the equipment?" And then Hayashi walks in and says, "Oh," he's laughing, "Oh, there is no equipment. This is not like a regular medical treatment. This is called Reiki." And she had never heard of it or didn't know what it was, but she was feeling better. And so over a period of 4 months, she was completely healed of all of her conditions. And she decided, though, that she was going to go back to Hawaii, but no one back there practiced this. And she asked if she could have permission to be a student and to learn Reiki, and learn the practice. So she was trained in level 1, Shoden, and then Okuden, and she got part of the master. Now, it's hard to say exactly how that happened, but we know also back at that time, Okuden, or level 2, did have some of the attunement information in it. And so she may have gotten that part. And then she went back to Hawaii, and she was trying to figure out how can she get Hayashi to come to Hawaii so she can get, complete her training. And so she knew something about the Japanese customs, and Hayashi had a young daughter who was not married. And prior to marriage, the young women are required to learn as much as they can and to take advantage of any type of learning experience that is available. And so Takata very shrewdly invited the daughter to come to Hawaii, because that would be learning, travel. And so also knowing that she wouldn't be able to travel by herself and it would need a chaperone, and Dr. Hayashi would have to do that. So that's how she got Hayashi to come to Hawaii. And then together they traveled around, teaching Reiki classes. And then she got the completion of her Shimpiden master, and she has a certificate and everything, fully authorized to teach. Felt that they needed a grand master, so they asked Takata's granddaughter if she would be a grand master of Reiki. And she said, I don't think there is such a thing as a grand master. I don't know if I want to do it. But eventually she gave in and became, quote, the grand master of Reiki. So they created something called the Reiki Alliance, and they claim to teach the same way Takata taught. The only issue around that is that Takata taught differently each time she taught. And also, for some strange reason, she didn't allow people to take notes or to tape record. Now, she had a manual that she was given by Hayashi, and also Usui had a manual too. But she began saying that Reiki was an oral tradition and nothing was to be in writing. So no one could keep notes and no one could tape record. So it put a big damper on how Reiki could be spread, because if something was in writing, people could read it. But fortunately, Takata was not consistent. And so she did allow one class to take notes, and she even had handouts. And I happened to get a packet in the mail from this one student that said that she studied with Mrs. Takata the year that she passed on, 1980, and that she was able to take notes and had the handouts. And I got the packet of all Takata's official handouts and the notes and everything. So I still have that back in Michigan. I put that into the back of the 1 and 2 manual. There's an article. I think what happened is I put it into an article that appeared in the Reiki News magazine, and it's Takata's handouts. And so I put it in there. But also here's we have a Takata's old sign. Let's see. That was found in her studio. So her on the Big Island, there's a house, and an acupuncturist bought it. And he was rummaging around in the basement. There was a pile of rubbish, and he pulls out this old sign. And then one of our Reiki masters, Duff Katie, lived on the Big Island, and then went there and was talking to this acupuncturist, and said, and he was informed that Takata had, was this important person in Reiki. And the guy says, well, maybe that explains this old sign. And he pulls this old sign out. And so anyway, then he now has like a shrine in Hilo. It's the same house Takata practiced, on the upper floor. You can go up there, and he's got the sign. He's got a lot of different pieces of memorabilia and things for Takata. So he honors. He's an Aikido master and acupuncturist. So, and that's in Hilo. You can still, I guess, if you go there, probably you'd be able to. He gives you some access to go up there if anyone ever wants to go to her old clinic. And in the clinic that she's got just small little rooms, like, what do you do with this little room? Well, they were treatment rooms. So for Reiki. So she would do Reiki treatments there.
So William, with the idea that Reiki is to be developed, that came through to you, and then as you learned through all of this process with it, so then that, I would assume, is kind of where you ended up going with it, with developing the systems and the manuals and things like that.
Well, yeah. Well, like I say, when I got level 1, the energy spoke to me and said, this energy can be developed. And because I had worked with a kahuna, he was very much into developing it. And I thought, well, that's the way to be, And so I didn't acknowledge the idea that, no, this is it. This is all you get. And so, because I had studied with so many other teachers and so many other types of metaphysics and healing and so forth, I had a very broad perspective. And so, I continued to do research and also to develop Reiki. And one of the things, the Kahuna told me two things that were really, really valuable. And he said, first of all, that he had studied with many teachers. And he said that was a very, very good thing to do. And he said, the second thing is, he said, find someone who's clairvoyant, have them look at your aura and have them do readings for you to help you heal. And he said, even though you have Reiki or whatever you have, and you can work on yourself, another person can see your aura better than you can and can understand your issues because they don't have the issues you have. Because of that, they can understand them more clearly. They're not confused by it. And so then they can help you to grow faster. And so he had a couple of other kahunas he would work with like that. And he worked with me in that way when I was, with him. And so because of that, though, then after that, I always, would say prayers and ask for guidance to find a very appropriate clairvoyant healer to work with. That has made all the difference for my practice. And that is why those two things, I wanted to develop it, I sought to develop it, and I work with a clairvoyant healer. And then in those sessions, I get, my intuition is expanded. I get much deeper ideas and understanding about anything I have inklings about, and I'm shown things and things like that. So that's what, those are the two powerful things he told me about. And those are the two things that really helped me develop my Reiki practice.
So what gave you the idea to write your manuals? Because I know there weren't any at that point.
Yeah, okay, good question. So anyway, what happened was, I'm a Reiki master, and then I meet another student who and she's talking about, she got this Reiki stuff, and she said, and at that time I wasn't allowing any notes to be taken or anything. I was just starting out, and I was teaching the same way, and I thought, this is how you do it. But she said, I took that Reiki class, and we couldn't take any notes. And she took it from another teacher, and she said, I couldn't take any notes, and there's nothing in writing, and I couldn't remember how to do it. And so she said she went back to the teacher and asked the teacher, well, can you answer a few questions? Because I'd like to practice this, And he said, no, all I can do is allow you to take the class again, and this time pay attention. So she said she couldn't afford to go back and take the class again, and she never practiced. So I thought, is that how I want my students to be? Do I want them to just give me the money? They got this thing that they don't really know how to use, and they forget how to do it, and they never really use it. Or do I want my students to be really good? Which one do I choose here? I thought, I want my students to be the best students they possibly can. I'm going to write the very best manual I can. And so there was a copy shop, and they let me have time. I rented time on a Macintosh computer. I'd go down there, and I'd have notes and everything, and I'd write out my manual. And then they were a copy shop also, and so then they would make Xerox copies of the manual. And at that time there was the Indiana Jones movies, and they go dun 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 dun. So I walk in, they're going dun 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 dun, and I walk back into the back, and sit down and start. So I had kind of like adventurous energy about it, and so I wrote it, and I printed it, and I gave it to my students, and lo and behold, I asked them, are you guys still practicing? They go, oh yeah, we got the manual. If we can't remember something, look it up. And also I would let them take notes, and they said, we got the notes and the manual. We're practicing. Sure. I said, wow, that worked.
You started selling it in bookstores, right?
Then what happened was, what happened was for my manual, I was wondering, are there any other books on Reiki? Because, when you're a writer, you want to reference other writers in your manual. So I thought, are there any other books on Reiki? So I called the bookstore, and I said, hey, do you got any books on Reiki? And he says, Well, no, there's no books on Reiki that I know of. When I said, well, but he said, we get people asking about it, but no, we don't have any, there's never been anything on Reiki we can give them. And I said, well, I have this manual and I just thought, I could use, if it was something, we could use it. He says, what? What'd you just say? And I said, well, I have this manual. He says, you have a manual? I go, yeah, I got a manual. And I just thought maybe I could use references. Well, what, if you have a manual, send me copies. I could sell them. And I said, yeah, but it's just this funky Xerox manual, it's no big thing or anything. He says, you don't understand. People come in here every single day wanting a Reiki something, a book on Reiki. I have nothing to give them. Send me some copies, I can sell them. So I go, oh, okay. So I send him copies and he sells them. And then I call a few other bookstores and they're the same way. And then I get a list of 400 bookstores. So then I let them all know about it. And so then at the same time though, there near Detroit, there's a place called Ann Arbor that's a center for a book printing center. So I went to a book printer company and talked with them about making a better looking, not a Xerox copy, but a printed manual. And so they worked with me, told me exactly how to do it and everything. And then I printed up my first manual, which was spiral bound. And it's like, this is like this. And so what happened also is that you guys listening to this probably heard of Tony Robbins, quite young. He was only 24, but he came across like a full, a mature man. He didn't let anyone know he's that young, but we found out. But anyway, I took the training here in Hawaii and I took it in California. And when I went to Detroit, he was in Detroit teaching his training. And then I met a woman there that was an artist. And so what she said that, she wanted to help me with my manual because we wanted to have, drawings of the hand positions. So what she said to do was to get a model and that we would set up and she would take a photograph of someone doing a specific hand position. And we went through all the hand positions and she took photos. And then what she did is she used the photo to maintain proportion because freelance drawing from nothing is hard to do. But with the photo, she was then able to draw the line drawings, and that's where all the drawings came from in the manual. So, she was really good. And so these are all, we had photos of each of these positions. And so then she did the line drawings, which ended up being like really good. And so they're not photos, they're great line drawings. So I had all the line drawings of all the hand positions, and it just ended up being a really good manual. And I started selling it all over the place. And it also was almost like, acted like an advertising piece, because people would go and find my manual and I would have my address and even my phone number in it. I would get phone calls and they say, I went to this bookstore and got this manual. And we're just wondering, there's a lot of us that are interested in Reiki. Would you be interested in coming to our town and teaching a Reiki class? I go, yeah, I think I could do that. So then I started traveling and I got Albuquerque, New Mexico, even the Caribbean and Canada and all over the place. And the manual was like an advertising piece, and people would get the Reiki manual and they'd say, well, this guy, maybe we should take a class from him. So, it started promoting my classes without me even thinking that would happen. So, things got better and better and better. And then, taught, in the US, and then I got a call from England. They wanted me to go over there and flew to England. That was the first time I flew, that I went to the Caribbean, but that's, still the part of the US somewhat. But, that was the first time I flew to a foreign country and I started teaching there. And their issue also was that it was $10,000 to be a master, and I'm out offering it for $500 at that time. And they wanted to know, what about, is this real? Can you send us your certificates? So I send them my certificates and they call back and say, yeah, we looked at the certificates. They certainly look authentic. Yeah, I guess you are a real master. So would you like to come out? We'll set you up for, and so they set me up and I taught 5 classes. And there were 10 Reiki masters in each one. So I produced 50 Reiki masters in England. And then from there, they began teaching. And then after that, most of the people in England and also Europe have their lineage coming back to me. So kind of
Were
interesting.
you, had you developed the Usui Tibetan lineage at that point?
Yeah, let me tell you how that happened. So Arthur Robertson was he was involved with Tibetan shamanism. And then and he was also somewhat psychic. And then he became a Reiki master. So what happened was Takada had, I think there was 21 masters. One of them was Iris Ishikuro. Now, after Takada passed on, Iris Ishikuro decided to train 2 people for a very reasonable fee, the master level, instead of 10,000. It was supposed to be $10,000 as a required fee. She trained 2 people at a reasonable fee. One of them was her daughter, who never taught or never did anything with it. The other was Arthur Robertson. Robertson was already a teacher of Tibetan shamanism, so it was easy for him to start teaching Reiki classes. And because he paid $500 for master, he charged $500. So my first teacher, Diane McCumber, learned from Arthur Robertson. Because I wanted, I heard these rumors, someone's teaching master for $500. I go, well, it's supposed to be 10,000. How could it be real if it's only $500 and it's supposed to be 10,000? So I talked with her and she says, oh no, it's real. And she explained the lineage and what had happened, and that this was authentic. And it was, coming from Takada, Iris Ishikuro, Arthur Robertson, and her. It was an authentic lineage going back to Usui. I go, wow, okay. Now, what had happened with me is I went back to Michigan and I started writing for the local metaphysical paper. It was called Phenomenons. And I wasn't such a good writer, but they coached me and they fixed my writing. So out of that, I learned how to be a writer. And then I started teaching classes in spiritual development. So I used all the training from the Kahuna and from the Wicca and from all the different trainings I had, and hypnosis and past life regression therapy and astrology. And I created a spiritual development training. And so I started teaching classes. So a sequence of events happened that were almost like guidance. And I know my face is getting brighter the more I talk, right? It's the Reiki.
You're just glowing.
So anyway, what happened was, and this is it's somewhat mysterious to me. I'm in Hawaii. Now, who here listening to this podcast, if you had the option of staying in Hawaii or moving to Detroit, how many would actually go to Detroit?
Well, with your view out that front window.
Yeah. So yeah, with this view, yeah. So anyway, what happened to me was that through different circumstances, I was sort of forced and guided and whatever, I end up back in Detroit. And then I start teaching these spiritual development classes. And then I find out that I can become a Reiki master for $500. Then I become a master in March of '89. And bing, I realized, look what just happened. I went all the way to Hawaii and got Reiki 1 and 2. Then they traveled all the way back to Detroit, where it's now available for $500 to be a master. I mean, that's why I was guided back there. And it was like, whoa, I was there a few years, learning to be a teacher and writing and everything. And then Reiki master, then I get it. Wow, look what just happened.
Well, you're originally from Detroit, right, William?
Yeah, originally from Detroit. Yeah. So yeah,
So
more comfortable there. A lot of friends and stuff. So yeah, so then I started teaching and my teaching just took off. And I still, then eventually I did buy a house there. That's another thing too, is I was teaching Reiki classes and I thought, I can live anywhere I want. And so, I started getting some savings. And then there was someone from the Tony Robbins group that was a realtor. And also I was getting sessions from this one clairvoyant woman. And I was deciding, should I continue renting a house here or should I buy a house? And so I asked her, and she tunes in, she says, karmically, it would be better if you bought a house. As soon as she says that, in my mind, it all clicks. Like I'm totally resisting. Who in their right mind would want to live in Detroit? Why would, but anyway, I bought a house there. And when I bought that house, bam, everything just took off because I had a stable place, a permanent place to teach. The house was big enough to have classes there. And people all over Detroit were very curious and interested. And, in the classes, and then from there I branched out and taught around the country and, got to go to England and even Australia and New Zealand and lots of other countries and so forth. So, yeah, I still have the same house back in Michigan. And so the whole thing worked out really well. And I think it was like I sort of surrendered, and it ended up being a pretty good deal, actually. Because actually in Detroit, there was a very good, thriving metaphysical community.
And then is that where you, when you ended up combining the Usui and the Tibetan?
Mhm. Yeah, so Arthur Robertson developed an alternative form of Reiki he called Raku Ki. And it was a combination of Tibetan shamanism and Reiki, Usui Reiki, Raku Ki. So then in that, there was something called the violet breath that he borrowed from Tibetan shamanism, and also Tibetan symbols. There was the Tibetan fire serpent, and there was this symbol that eventually became called the Tibetan dichomium. And it looks like a kind of a spiral up into a sort of a funnel with a lightning bolt in it. And he borrowed that from Tibetan shamanism. And so he created Raku Ki, which is a combination of Reiki and Tibetan shamanism. And so Diane McCumber knew both of those styles. So I learned Raku Ki and the straight, regular Usui Reiki. So I had both of them. And so I'm practicing them, and I'm thinking, are people going to want to pay for both of these things, because it's kind of similar. And so I said a prayer, and I sensed the strong presence of my guides. And I said, can I combine them together to make Usui Tibetan Reiki? And they're considering it. I could see their heads nodding, like they're considering, like in an approving kind of way, like, yes, this will work. So then I combined it together. And so I became a master in March of '89. And by around December of '89, that's when I started calling what I was doing, Usui Tibetan Reiki. And it was a combination of the Tibetan shamanism and Usui Reiki. And it included the violet breath. So the violet breath was a very important part of it. Like, it's a special breath. And put your tongue to the roof of the mouth, and it's a circular, you breathe in, the energy comes down the front of your body, and you're holding the way in at the base there, and it comes up your spine. And then you see it, and you picture the Tibetan master symbol in there, and then go, and you blow into the crown chakra of the person. And so that was part of the attunement process. But then the Usui way didn't do that. And then there was some confusion too, that people got the Raku Ki and thought it was Usui Reiki. So there's some confusion about the violet breath and all that. So anyway, I was able to do a lot of research and get them separated and see what Robertson did. And so anyway, that's where I combined them together, Usui Tibetan. And that simplified it, and people had to take just one class instead of two, and it solved the problem of the Tibetan and the Usui separately, bring them together. So
That was the original lineage I learned
yeah,
from you that you were teaching when I met you in England.
Yeah, Usui Tibetan. Yep. And so
Well, and how does that lead up to the now world peace Reiki?
Yeah, so then going back to the kahuna and his advice to always have a clairvoyant person that you work with, and then also the kahuna always wanting to develop everything and the energy telling me it should be developed, then I put it all together in my clairvoyant sessions. I would ask questions about what can we do to make this better and so forth. So one of the people I worked with has passed on. Her name was Janice Jones. Then in working with Janice Jones, then Jesus would come through her channeling, and then that's where the energy came from. Now, one of the experiences I had in this room is after a session I had with Janice Jones, I'm sitting here in this room, and I see Jesus in this room too. But he's looking up like this. He's looking intently, like that. And it leads me to think, what's he looking at? So when I asked this question, what's he looking at? You know, he wanted me to ask that question because he wanted me to find out what he was looking at. So then I feel a presence on the left side of me, very solid, like a being is there. And I say, well, who or what are you? And they put it right into my mind very clearly. They say, we are the brothers and sisters of the light. But when they passed on, they rose up in consciousness to ever higher levels of consciousness. And on a very high level, they all met each other and became good friends. And so the brothers and sisters of the light are the founders of all the world's religions and spiritual paths.
And that was when Holy Fire came in, right?
Yeah, that was the development of Holy Fire. Slowly, these things are revealed, and it's like I'm really on the border of just being able to comprehend it. You know, what really, what? And then, but the energy though is working. And so what happened was I changed my classes from the Usui Tibetan class to, at first we didn't know, the first few classes, we used the same name. And then Jesus was saying, but this energy is different enough. We need a new name for it. And then in the several sessions, it got to be Holy Fire. And then, so that was a big, for me, created a lot of concern on the part of the students because many had already signed up and paid deposits for classes. And now I'm teaching something different than what they signed up to take. But I convinced them to go ahead with it and see if they like the energy. And I said they could give their money back if they didn't like it, but they really, really liked it. So, but there was at first quite a lot of concern that has gradually just died down to nothing. And now it's been around for 8 years, and it's long enough where new people who are new to Reiki learn about Holy Fire Reiki when they learn about Reiki. So it's not anything unusual, but it did take quite a bit to, and then it evolved. So I thought, oh, this is it, got it. Okay, it's cool. So then, but then it was only for master level. Then I started wondering, well, what about the 1 and 2? And that in ART, because I was actually doing an actual physical attunement for the ART portion of the master class. I was still doing a hands-on on that one. Okay. And then I would do just the guided meditation type thing for the ignition, and then where I would stop talking. So at first, and then gradually then in September and then into November or December of 2015, then I asked specifically about the question of, is there anything, because we were told the less the teacher does, the more powerful it is for the student. Because for the energy to flow through the teacher into the student, it can get bogged down flowing through the teacher. And so the more the teacher keeps their energy out of it, the stronger it is. And so then I started to ask, well, what about 1 and 2? I'm still doing the hands-on attunements for 1 and 2. And she says, yes. Well, you're right. I've been preparing you and now you're ready. So now you're ready for the next step, and we have something to do similar to an ignition that would be for level 1 and 2, and we're going to call this a placement. And so then we did the placements for 1 and 2 and for ART, or for the Usui master symbol, and then the ignitions are for the holy fire symbol. So it slowly developed in that direction. So for me, it's was a lot of somewhat concerning energy coming from other people, because actually at the time that I got holy fire, there was nothing wrong with my Reiki business. Everything was going really well. That nothing needed to be improved or changed or anything. And then I'm asked to go through this big shift, and that's I think my classes might have got a little bit smaller, but anyway, got through that, and now it was a good decision because the energy is much, much stronger, and everybody likes it, and we're on a path, going up, up, just more and more and more and more. So I think the holy fire got us into a place where the Reiki energy can more easily develop and get stronger. And in fact, my feeling is the brothers and sisters of the light and God, the creator or source, has a plan for this and knows all about it. And what I was told, though, I've asked questions sometimes around that, and they said, well, your job is to use what you have. We've given you certain tools and energies and things for you to work with. Use them. Focus on that. Don't think about what's happening, what's going to happen next. We take care of that. That's our job. Your job is to use what we've given to you and get it established within your system and grounded on the planet. I go, oh, okay. And so that can be likened to someone in, let's say, they really like school. They're in the 2nd grade and they're excited about school. And they're wondering, what are they doing in the 4th grade? What are they doing in the 4th grade? And they start talking to some of the students, and and they start wondering about the 4th grade stuff. But the problem there is that they have to focus on the 2nd grade. They have to learn the 2nd grade. If they don't learn the 2nd grade, they're never going to get to the 4th grade. So, you got to focus on what you're being taught at the level you're at and get good at it. Then you'll be shown the next step. So another thing around that too is that the next step isn't possible unless you do that work and your energy field develops. That's the only way you can go on. So you have to develop into it, and then they show you the next step, because that's what you're supposed to be focused on. So that's how they're training and guiding us, is they only show us the next step. They don't show us the whole big and they say too, things are only possible if you work on what we've given you. And you need to be totally focused on it and not, thinking about what's going to happen next year or whatever, So it's an interesting concept.
So this year, then Reiki also, Holy Fire also upgraded with the world peace energy.
Yeah, that's what was the upgrade. It happened here in March, and with Colleen and we got a new energy for world peace Reiki energy, because at that time, and maybe even now for a lot of people, there's a lot of inner turmoil about what's going to happen on the planet. It's like, what's going on? And it creates a lot of strife, even for Reiki people. And so the world peace was a vibration to deal directly with that concern and to first heal individuals so that they can be at peace in the world. And then they can send this world, this level of world peace energy into to the planet to help the planet heal, and to heal through the potential for, very undesirable things taking place. It's so amazing the way it works that first we become peaceful, and then we're able to share it out into the world and help the world be peaceful also. So
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember when we were talking about it, that one of the questions or one of the energies in the world was really a lot about empathic stress. And that's when you were saying, well, let's see what we can do to help with that empathic stress.
yeah,
That world
I
peace
remember
came
that. Yeah,
in.
you were saying that about empathic stress, that we're picking up other people's fears and concerns, and so World Peace Reiki heals empathic stress. It helps us to be in our own space, in a state of peace, unaffected by anything going on around us. Now, that's really very interesting too, because that was on Senditsome that Usui got. That was the quality of Ansen Ditsome. And I'm not saying this is the same as what he got, but on the same level. But it was that once you enter this Ansen Ditsome, then you're at peace, independent of anything going on around you. And the Holy Fire seems to have that quality also, that your peace comes from something welling up from within, rather than being based on what's going on around you. So it reverses the flow. Instead of the world affecting us, then we're affecting the world. Our energy, well, the energy that flows through us, not us, of course, but this world peace Reiki energy flows through us out to the world to bring peace into the world. But it starts with us first. So we get the reward right away.
That is an amazing part of it for sure.
Yeah. What we're going to do now is what we call a Holy Fire healing experience. It's going to be, let's see, I guess we could do it in different ways. This will be, it can be different for each person, what happens for each person. And so in this experience, you're going to be taking, you're going to be receiving a special energy that will flow directly to you, and it will be created especially for you. And so what I would recommend is that you should be laying down or sitting comfortably somewhere. And what we're recommending is special music. There's different types of music you can play. One of the types that I like a lot is called Julie True, Music to Journal By, Volume 1, Healing Presence. And I guess Robin's putting that up on the board. Yeah. And so if you want, you could pause and get that music going. And or then Colleen, you had one you like too, right? What is that?
Yeah, I like Dance of Life by Peter Helland. Both of those can be found on YouTube. And of course, you can also play music that you like.
Yeah, it's basically more just music rather than any strong lyrics or anything like that. Nice flowing, relaxing type of music without too many words being spoken or sung. So we'll let you do that, get that set up, and then we'll get started. So, okay, we assume that you've got your music all set to go and you started to play it. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to also explain what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, because this is a little bit different. What I'm going to do is begin the guided meditation, and I'll just talk for a short time and then I'm going to stop talking. And that's so that my energy gets out of the way and the Holy Fire energy can come directly to you and work with you directly in a way that's exactly right for you. So that's how it works. And I'm just here to get it started. And then I actually pull my energy back and let the Holy Fire energy do its thing in your space. Okay.
And just to clarify real quick, William, this is just an experience rather than an attunement or in.
Yeah, it's not an attunement.
Yeah.
It's a healing experience. And so the healing energy will come in and be there for you. You may receive guidance, you may receive inspiration, or you might have a eureka moment when suddenly like a solution to a problem comes to you, or if you have any emotional issues that need to be healed, or anything else going on in your life, I would say just release it up into the light, let go, and afterwards there'll be a time when you can take some notes and write down your experiences. Okay?
So they will be, after you stop talking, they will be in their own inner experience for a good amount of time.
Yeah, this is going to last a little less than a half hour. And so this will be a time for you to just spend in meditation. You know, like I say, I'll talk at first, and I'm going to stop talking, and then the energy will come in and work with you directly. And so it's a time of meditation, quiet reflection, and so forth, just being relaxed and comfortable. And then afterwards, you'll have time to also make some notes on what happened for yourself.
And you'll let them know when to come back.
Yeah, I will definitely bring you back at the right time. Mhm.
Great.
So can't
Well, I'm
wait.
looking forward to it.
Yes.
Great. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So just make yourself really comfortable. And with your music playing in the background, take a couple of deep breaths. Allow yourself to relax. And you can place your hands anywhere that you feel comfortable placing them. And you can remain in the position you're in, or change your position, or stretch or relax if you'd like to do that. And I'd like you to take a couple of really deep breaths and just close your eyes and allow yourself to relax. And I'd like you to imagine that it's a very beautiful day, a warm and sunny day. And I'd like you to imagine that you're barefoot and you're walking through a beautiful forest. And as you're walking along, just take a moment to be aware of your surroundings. This is a very peaceful forest, very safe, beautiful forest. And as you're walking along, as you're breathing into yourself, you actually breathe in the life essence of the forest. And just breathing in the peacefulness, quiet and calm of the forest. And with each step that you take, just imagine that the energies of the earth are flowing up through the bottoms of your feet. And as you're walking along through the forest up ahead, you see another path going off to the left, and you wonder, where does this path go? So just imagine going off to the left, and as you do that, you notice the path is going up through the forest, and it's getting steeper, and yet you're filled with vitality and strength and well-being, and easily you climb up the path higher and higher through the forest until you come out to a plateau and walk through a beautiful meadow. As you're walking along up ahead, you see a small hill, and the path goes up to the top of the hill, and just walk up to the top of this small hill. And there's some soft grass up there. It feels very peaceful here, very safe. The soft grass, just imagine laying down in the soft grass, very comfortable. And take another really deep breath, allowing yourself to relax even more deeply now. And as you're laying there, just imagine looking overhead, and right above you is a very beautiful cloud, a white puffy cloud. Wonderful cloud, feels very peaceful, soft, comfortable. You take another really deep breath. And as you're gazing up at the cloud, you notice that in the middle of the cloud, it seems like there might be a wind there kind of swirling around a little bit. And the cloud is thinning there. And then a beautiful beam of light shines down through the cloud. And it shines down all around you. And this is no ordinary light. This is the light of the holy fire, a beautiful light filled with healing, love, encouragement, positive regard, wonderful energies. This beautiful light now shines all around you, and it even feels like it's shining right through you. And as it shines through you, you relax even more deeply. The light is very warm and soothing, and you realize that you're being invited to rise up into the beam of light. And just imagine now rising up into the beam of light, very warm and soothing. The light is guiding you now and encouraging you to rise up higher and higher. The light is filled with a very special guidance for you. Allow yourself to be guided by the light. All right. You can continue with your experience as long as you feel guided to do so. And whenever you're ready, take a couple of deep breaths. Bring your awareness to your eyes. And then slowly open your eyes and come back. And then take some time to write down your experiences in your notebooks.
Thank you, William.
Oh, you're welcome.
Amazing. And if anybody needs a little extra time to write, they can always, of course, pause the recording. But yeah, that was really amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ah, that felt great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, and thank you for joining us here today. Again, this is the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast, and you can find us at reikilifestyle.com. You can also find William at reiki.org, and that is his website. It has a full listing of all of his classes, and next year, some of his international travel and teaching in places around the world, and possibly even some classes in Hawaii, and maybe even some 7 days as we've done before. So all of 2023 is getting kind of figured out with the calendar. And then also, William, I'd like to mention your Reiki vitamins.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have created some vitamin supplements, a vitamin supplement, and I've been interested in this for many, many years, and have did a lot of research on vitamins and people that do Reiki. And what we found is that actually for every activity that a person is involved with, there is a more specific like nutritional formula that is appropriate for them. And so as an example, a long distance runner would need one type of nutrition that would be different from someone that did weightlifting. You know, I mean, you can see that. And in metaphysical activities also, there are certain nutrients that the body uses in conjunction with, say, states of relaxation or meditation, and also in terms of channeling the Reiki energy. And so we've done research on this to come up with a formula that's exactly right and is very supportive for people who do Reiki or meditation or practice Tai Chi or yoga or that sort of thing. So this is what they look like. Let's see, there we go, Reiki vitamins. And we have them on our website at reiki.org. And each bottle is like a 1 month supply. So if you have any questions, I guess you can always go to the website. Most of the information is there about the vitamins, but it's a complete nutritional supplement with vitamins, minerals, and herbs. So it's a very healthy formula, and especially designed for people who do Reiki and practice that sort of metaphysical activity.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of that development was occurring while you were here with all these plants that are here in front of you as well, and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
plant
yeah.
nations and the earth energy that's in them too, in the vitamins,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and the Reiki energy, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, in fact, we tuned into there are what you would call nature spirits that work with herbs. And it's so interesting that the nature spirits communicated with us and said that they were very excited about this formula, and that they were going to, they knew actually what herbs would be in our formula, what plants would be growing, and that they were going to put a special energy in those herbs to enhance the flow of Reiki energy. So I know it sounds pretty out there, doesn't it? But anyway.
Well, not to us.
Not to us. I know, not, if you mentioned it to.
Probably not to our people either.
No. Yeah. Yeah, if you tried to explain that to an ordinary person, I suppose they'd think like, yeah, you guys are pretty weird, aren't you? But anyway,
That's
We call it our weirdometer.
yeah.
we're all weird.
It's just kind of everything I say.
Yeah, but yeah, I was amazed, when that actually came through in a session, and that they were formulated especially in that way to combine special energies within the herbs that are included in the formula.
Well, that's another amazing way of nourishing ourselves and self-care. So that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to make sure that you brought it up and shared that, because that's also a lifelong love of yours.
Absolutely, nutrition.
Mhm.
Yeah, the thing is that what we found is people that do a lot of Reiki will start out the week feeling pretty good, but as they continue, they actually start to feel a little tired. And it has nothing to do with their energy being part of the Reiki treatment. It has to do with their bodies being able to process the Reiki energy through them. And so there are certain nutrients that are used up. And so this replenishes them. And people that have had that problem in the past are saying that taking the vitamins is a really, they don't have any issues like that at all. And they're able to do, a very complete, Reiki business, having see a lot of clients without feeling tired at the end of the week. So.
Absolutely. Well, again, check out William's website, reiki.org, for the listings of all of his classes. Some new listings for the international classes will be up on the website soon with information. And for sure, Japan, we can now travel to Japan. And so our class in April of 2023 in Japan on Mount Karama is definitely going to happen now. So we've been waiting to make sure that that would be available, and Japan was actually going to be open for tourists. So that, and I know you already have your Glastonbury class established too.
Yeah, that's lined up. Yep, in Glastonbury, England.
Mhm.
Which is a very spiritual place. There's a lot of power centers all around Glastonbury. People have been going there for hundreds, probably thousands of years for spiritual reasons. It's really a wonderful, amazing place. And then, Stonehenge isn't too far from there. There are a lot of other places that you could combine with a trip to Glastonbury. But the whole town is very conducive and open to any type of metaphysical practice.
Absolutely. Well, that's where I first took classes with you and absolutely love the town. I know we went to Stonehenge, but as it turned out, Glastonbury for me was, I don't know, it just felt like the like it was spiritual, metaphysical, it was beautiful. And I guess for me too, I think I had a lot of kind of like cellular memory around it.
Oh, yeah,
So, yeah.
Awesome.
good.
Well, William, again, thank you so much. And we really appreciate it and have really loved watching the view out your front window.
Okay, yeah,
And
thank you. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. This was very enjoyable.
I thought so too.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye now.